coordinating a lot of events with a lot of different units on campus, people aren't showing up. And I don't think it's for a lack of interest. It might be, but I just want to know what you think would help grease the wheels and get more people to show up.
It might actually be good for somebody else also to raise your hand and answer that question, because I think in part this is so specific to the particular institution, and every place is different. I mean, you know, right now I'm at a small residential university. Everybody lives within a few feet. They also don't come from the metro area that they're going to school in, so they don't have much tie, so that's bad. But they also don't have very many conflicting things to do. So, you know, it's so different. So I suspect your students are more embedded in the community, which is a good thing, an asset, but also more distracted by other parts of life. So, so really somebody else should answer your question. But I guess I will say this. The reason I was mentioning those institutions like newspapers and unions and stuff is because I don't really think the macro solution to this is to recruit people in to be good citizens. I don't think that's ever the way it works. I think you come in because of various kinds of pretty concrete material benefits. You join the union, you get the newspaper. You join the Knights of Columbus because you want to have social experiences and because you think you'll make business connections. You don't do it to be a good citizen. But you end up being a good citizen because of pathways that bring you to that. And that's what we've lost. So I don't find it terribly discouraging that if you do a sustainability thing, you don't get the turnout you want. I think that's sort of, if I can use the word, I know it's problematic, but that's sort of human nature. So the question is, how do we get people there so that they're benefiting in some way? I'm sure you're already working on that.
I guess I want to disagree with the way that you said this, and also what you said earlier about the Freedom Summer participants, that people don't do these things in order to feel good about themselves, and they don't do these things in order to be good citizens. Yes, they do. Some of the people who went to the South did it because they would feel bad about themselves if they stood by and watched, for example, black citizens sacrifice their lives and didn't take part. And in the same way, sure, people do read the newspaper because they want to be good citizens and they want to know what's going on. And I think, you know, even though there might be larger goals, the fact that people can feel good about themselves for taking part is important. That's, you know, one of the ways that you get people to vote, I think, is to say, how are you going to feel if the person you wanted to win loses and you didn't even vote? You know, don't come complaining to me, I went to the polls. And that really is about feeling good. It's not just about taking responsibility.
I think that's very important, corrective, and it leads to certain kinds of strategies which say, there are people out there who want to do stuff, and we're not good stuff. They want to be good citizens, and we're not actually giving them the space or opportunities to do it. And that would be a strategy for getting even more people involved. Because if we gave people who wanted to be involved more opportunities, they would be catalytic. I will just say, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I will just say, you know, 1,000 mostly white folks went down to Mississippi in Freedom Summer. They're probably, I think the age cohort would have been about 20 million. So, fair number didn't go there. So, you know, you have a sustainability event, you're going to have some people who come, and you're going to have a lot of people who don't come. You want some of those people who didn't come voluntarily to show up. And so the question, that's one of the things that interests me. I mean, because with this generation, there's a lot of environmental activists who are willing to make significant sacrifices. But they're, when I say a lot, I mean 5%, 2% of the population. So both things are true at the same time.
But even if you think in terms of the longitudinal study of those people, and you say it wasn't good for them because, and we shouldn't worry about whether it was good for them, they got divorced, they had suffered from depression, they felt alienated, they dropped out of civic society. It was good for them in the sense that, at least for most of them, they felt that they had taken part in something that was important. They felt that they had made a difference in changing the world. And the good for you isn't only, is it true 40 years later that your life is happy? It's also, did you feel when you did it that it was good for you to do it and that you felt good, you felt engaged, you felt whatever it is you're supposed to feel? And also the kind of person who chose to go to Mississippi may have made a whole lot of other choices along the way that leads to them being the sort of person who 40 years later has a certain kind of life and maybe is unhappy or discouraged because of what's going on around them.
Yes. Oh, well, yes. everything you said is true and wise. I mean, there's actually some evidence that it was going to Mississippi that made their life worse, because he has this really clever design where he can actually look at the people who were going to go but were blocked from going and compare them, and they actually were better. So it was actually the experience that made their lives worse. But your main point is absolutely well taken, which is that what's good for you is not to be defined simply in terms of things like depression or those kinds of things. They wouldn't change. I mean, this is in his book because he did interviews in the 80s. They wouldn't say, well, I wish I hadn't gone. Yes?
I think one thing that often gets put aside in the conversation of civic engagement and diversity, and I come from the museum world. I've only been with UHC for 3 weeks now. So the rhetoric on civic engagement in the museum world has been very big for the last 2 decades, as you mentioned, the Whole House Museum and so forth. But and my background is in cultural anthropology. So one of the things that I think is imperative to try to articulate the civic engagement, the foundation of civic engagement is to bring together different perspectives and voices, right? Together. And the beauty of that is the creativity that comes out of those conversations. So I think that often gets put aside, that we don't really talk about, that it is through the creativity of humans is our only hope to solve all the problems that we have today in the world. And that's what diversity is. You know, diversity is not about, you know, I dance and you eat wonderful food and you do. It is peeling the onion and talked about what are those values and what are those assets that each of us bring to the table to be able to resolve all these challenges socially and environmentally that we are facing nowadays. So I just hope that as the university goes into this path of civic engagement and diversity, that this conversation of creativity and assets is put on the table as, you know, this is a major part of why this is important.
Maybe we should let that be the last word. That was a beautiful last word. I yield to that.
Just wanted to say a few words in closing. I think this has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you, Peter, for putting a framework to this. We at IPCE have been talking about doing something like this for some time to help us make sense of all the things that we were doing and help us to better integrate it with great things that other folks are doing here on campus. Our approach is certainly not to recreate the wheel. We know there's a great tradition here on the UIC campus of individual people doing a lot of great things, engaged research. We know research is one of the strengths of this university, so we're trying to think of ways to connect sort of this big research driver that we have here on campus to this need to really address the civic education, civic engagement, educational aspect of the university as well. And so we're always looking to partner with units, departments, individual faculty across campus to help us in pursuit of that mission. So we're always open to your ideas, and if any part of this discussion has spurred any sort of new ideas or new thinking about civic engagement here at UIC, I'd love to sit down and talk with you. Certainly reach out to us. Visit our website, www.ipce.uic.edu. And so on that note, with one more round of applause, and thank you for our guest lecturers, and thank you all for coming out. And please watch for any other IPCE events. We hope to have several of these kinds of lectures in the coming year. Thank you.